Should we buy or sell the US dollar slash the Mexican pesos? First off, read this disclaimer carefully. Then do your good deed of the day by liking and subscribing. So, this pair is 0.39% from the 52-week low, 13-ish% away from the highs. Let's start here by looking at the charts, US dollar slash Mexican pesos, and we do see that the US dollar has weakened significantly against the pesos. People were super bullish on the dollar here in 2020, then they turned bearish. This is an old pattern in the market. When things look peak bullish, things can turn bearish, and it also is the other way around. Now people are like, oh, the US dollar is crashing, blah, blah, blah. That could be a time where there's a turnaround. We do see that we have fallen down here to a prior support level. Many times we have seen rallies from this exact level. So obviously the bears are still in control, looking very long term. We are still elevated. So if there is a major change now for the dollar, then it could definitely go lower. But we are now at the prior support level. Looking at the dailies, we are seeing some kind of support-ish action here. So you can clearly see that this is bearish. We go down. Now it's more like this. We are going sideways. There's a bit of a stop now. There are some numbers here coming out next week. Fed Chair Powell is going to have a bit of a speech on the 30th. JOLT job openings, GDP growth rate, ADP employment. Here we can see the forecast and the previous. So those are going to be major events that the Forex market will react to. Looking here at the technicals on the weeklies, we are at RSI support. The previous time we had this exact RSI level, it was way back here. This was a very good time to turn bullish on the dollar. We are also at support-ish levels on these PPOs, especially the blue 100-week PPO on the daily data points. We are emerging from RSI support on the dailies, so there is a thing here when it comes to RSI for sure. It seems very tradable to me. So in this case, I write horizontal and RSI support. I give the bulls a pretty strong 7 here on the technicals. Next on the list is the fundamentals. So to the right here, you can see the percentage of times this pair closed higher than it opened or lower. So the most relevant for us, of course, is November and December. So here's the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years. So December is pretty bullish, closes higher 60%, 70% here over the last 10 years. To the left here, you see the average data over the last 5 years in green, 7 years in blue, and 10 years in red. And the seasonality here into late December is very bullish for the dollar. I think I will give the bulls a 7 here also on the seasonality. This looks pretty darn interesting. When it comes to the fundamentals, I do think I will give the bulls a 3. I do think that the conditions here are macro for the dollar, especially at these levels, it's favorable. Next, we will look at relative performance. We do see that there is minus 50% correlation between this currency pair and the S&P 500. There is a minus 82% with the EWW, which is the Mexican stock market ETF. And there's a minus 1% correlation here with the dollar index. When we go here to the daily data points, we are at minus 11% with the S&P 500, minus 75% with the Mexican stock market, and just at 0 against the dollar index. It's important to be aware that the dollar index is a basket of currencies. While in this case above, we are specifically looking at the US dollar against the pesos. Let's have a bit of a look now at the EWW, which is the Mexican stock market. So what was good for the dollar was usually bad for this stock market, and the other way around. Yeah, so there's been a strong rally here in the Mexican stocks. Yeah, we are approaching some resistance levels here on the weeklies. On the dailies, you see here that the bulls are getting a bit spooked now as we approach prior fail levels. So let's have a bit of a look here at RSI and PPOs. So RSI is in a dangerous territory. There have been times where we have been higher, but that's usually where the party stops. On the dailies, we are very high. It is, of course, fully possible to attract more bulls at this level, but this is also a dangerous level to turn big bull. Many times in the past, where bulls have tried at this level, they have lost money. So yeah, of course, it's possible to get a breakout, but then again, the context for the breakout here is not that favorable. So let's have a bit of a look here at EWW on the seasonality. So the seasonality here, if you look here to the left, so November is not that shabby. December usually sees some pullback and then a rally, but then January is bad. Here I am looking at the US dollar Mexican pesos pair against gold. We have fallen down to a horizontal support level here in this pair. So that is definitively something that could become interesting. Here on the dailies, we are bouncing from a low level on RSI that usually sees the Forex pair outperform gold a bit. We do see that there are these time cycles. The time cycles have differed, and there's also been these very short time cycles. But yeah, there is this natural gyrations to these two. You can see it also here on the RSI. It's very much up and down, up and down, up and down. So because of that, let's have a bit of a look here at the seasonality for these. Oops, like that. We go here and paste it. Yeah, actually the Forex pair usually outperforms gold sharply here into the 23rd-ish of December, but then it falls apart. And you do give the bulls a 4 here on relative performance. So we end up with 5.3 for the bulls. We are at horizontal and RSI support. So all in all, this looks pretty interesting for the dollar. So we now have some time left. Let's run through various charts that are very much on my radar. On the topic of money, Bitcoin had this very vicious fall. The last 2 weeks, it seems like the bulls are sort of trying to form something a bit low-ish. When we go here to the daily data points, we see that we are going sideways, straight down. Now we are sideways. The purple 20-day moving average is definitively a level we should clear easily. If we do not, then that will just be very bad. We don't want a 20-day moving average now to become a fail level. The trip up now will be difficult because the green 50-day, blue 100-day, and the red 200-day moving average, they are all pointing downwards. So we will have one battle after the other. There's a lot of storm now around cryptocurrency due to the FTX situation. There's been a lot of chatter about what Tether really is all about. So if the cryptos have to have a major reset, such that the price of the cryptos reflect mining activity, then we will go much further down. The issue with the cryptos is that there's been so many like non-mining level layers on top of them now that are now priced into the cryptos. If they are to be priced out, then yes, big trip down. Let's look here at the seasonality for Bitcoin. Yeah, so we usually see a bit more weakness here into early December, but then it's a pretty good time to turn bullish into later December. over the last 5 years, you see here that December closes higher 60% of the time. The last 10 years, it drops down to 40%. So it's a very, but yeah, there could be some opportunities. Let's have a bit of a look at the gold with the GLD ETF. Strong rally, a bit of a cool down now. That's to be expected on the dailies. All in all, this is constructive price action, but it's a bit noisy. Let's look at the seasonality for gold. November closes higher 40% over the last 5 years, but December is 60% of the time. To the left here, you do see that the seasonality is actually pretty favorable here into late December across these various time frames. Let's look at some other cryptos. Let's look at Solana. Here you have Solana, at a very low level. If we were to, make back some of these major losses just to get up here as 153%, to make it up to this prior fail levels, we are approaching almost 1,000%, and the new all-time high 1,700 plus percent. That obviously would be very, very, very fun. When we go to the dailies, we see it's an interesting pattern because it's a bit of a rounding bottom-ish, inverse head and shoulder-ish pattern. So here you could argue you have a tiny left shoulder, a bit of a broad head, and maybe this is the right shoulder. That's bullish. Something that could be like a major game changer for cryptos in a bullish direction would be Elon Musk and Twitter, because he is doing a lot of innovative stuff now, and we know that he has an affinity for cryptocurrencies. I wouldn't be shocked if he finds some way to deeply tie cryptocurrencies into Twitter, and for the cryptos to actually be a real currency. That's obviously to be determined, but when he gets a lot of users on Twitter, it makes a lot of sense to commercialize that in some way. And for him, given his history, it makes a lot of sense that he will find some innovative, disruptive way to commercialize it. And that could very much be outside of the dollar system. Let's look at some of my favorite stocks. Virgin Galactic Holdings, big into space. Musk is also into space. This one is very far away from space, for sure. Let's look at the seasonality for Virgin Galactic. Yeah, December closes higher 60% of the time all over the last 5 years, but we don't get that much data on Virgin Galactic. Let's look at the fundamentals. A very low level on price book, price sales, and also to an extent also price earnings, but price earnings is a bit more elevated. Let's look at the forecasts for Virgin Galactic. What are the price projections? So let's look at some forecasts. 10 analysts have a 1-year price target. Yeah, so the average target is 18% above us. There is, however, some who think that we have minus 41% downside. But overall, the analysts are bullish. So we have looked at a bunch of stuff now. The US dollar and Mexican pesos there's something very interesting afoot. We have seen before that when things are super bullish, things can turn bearish, and when things are very bearish, they can turn bullish. And it's the latter context at the moment. Things look bad for the dollar, and you have all kinds of arguments for why things are bad. But if all those bad news are fully priced in, then the low is in. So yeah, we also looked at some other interesting stuff. And to get more interesting stuff and opportunities, you go to VIP Access on diamondarm.com. I'm making a lot of interesting course content there, and also more in-depth analysis where you will learn how to like analyze the markets. And now that I have my premium subscription to TradingView, then I will be able to make indicators, and I have some very interesting ideas for indicators. If you are very familiar with the Pine script coding language, then send me a message, because then we can arrange some beneficial deal for the both of us. I am in the process of learning Pine script, but I would ideally outsource that.